I remember that moment with crystal clarity. It was a sunny Sunday afternoon. The smell of fresh coffee filled the kitchen. I was drinking from my favorite cup, the one that said best husband. Laura gave it to me on our 5th wedding anniversary. Funny how time gives certain things a bitter kind of irony. Jeffrey, we need to talk, Laura said as she walked into the kitchen. Her voice had that tone, firm, but with a hint of nervousness. I already knew what she was going to say, even before she finished. Without looking up, I turned the last page of the New York Times. I can't live like this anymore, she said. I met someone else. I want a divorce. Silence hung in the air for a few seconds. I took a sip of coffee. It had cooled a little, but still tasted fine. I calmly folded the newspaper, set it aside, looked up at her, and said, "Okay, what's his name?" Her eyes widened, surprised. Maybe she had expected tears or begging. Anything but this calm indifference. Michael Donovan. We've known each other for about a year and a half. I interrupted her. Since last year's company Christmas party? Your company, right? He works in finance. Recently divorced. 2 kids from his first marriage. Laura turned pale. How do you know that? Is there more coffee, or should I make a new pot? I asked as I got up. I had known about the affair for months. Of course, I didn't realize it right away. But there were signs. Coming home late from work, sudden weekend meetings, new underwear I'd never seen before, strange phone calls she'd leave the room to answer. My old friend Jim, also a former classmate, had become a private detective. I didn't want assumptions. I wanted proof. Cold, hard facts. For court. Photos of them meeting at the Marriott Hotel every Thursday. Phone records. Credit card statements. Gifts she never mentioned. I had it all, organized and ready. The day before her little confession, I had already visited David Goldstein, the best divorce lawyer in Boston. I paid a retainer, signed the paperwork, and we built a plan. A real strategy. A timeline. In a way, it was a business plan. The liquidation of a 15-year joint venture. Our marriage. Jeff, you're scaring me, Laura said as I sat back down with a fresh cup of coffee. Why? Because I'm not screaming? Not breaking dishes? Not begging you to stay? I paused. You know, I've always believed love is a choice. Not just a feeling. You made your choice. Now it's my turn. I reached into my jacket, pulled out an envelope, and placed it on the table between us. What's that? She asked without touching it. Divorce papers. My lawyer has everything prepared. All that's left is your signature. The terms are standard. Completely fair. I assume you already have a lawyer. She trembled. How long have you known? Long enough, I said, standing up from the table. Oh, and I've already transferred my private assets to a separate account. Shared credit cards are blocked. If you need money, I suggest you ask Michael. You're planning to move in with him anyway, right? She looked at me like I was a stranger. And in a way I was. The man she thought she knew no longer existed. I need time to think. Of course, I said. You have until Friday evening to pack your things. After that, the locks will be changed. You can't just throw me out. This is my house too. Technically, no. I bought this house before we got married. It was never marital property. That's in the documents I sent to your lawyer. Feel free to double-check. Tears finally rolled down her face. But not because she had lost a husband. She cried because she was losing comfort. Status. Financial security. I was the heir to a successful construction company. CEO of a business bringing in tens of millions every year. Michael? He was a junior financial analyst with the mortgage and alimony payments. The next weeks went exactly as planned. Laura moved out Thursday, earlier than expected. Maybe the tension at home had become too much. My quiet, good morning, and enjoy your meal seemed to hit her harder than any argument. On Friday, a company came by to install a new security system and change the locks. By Saturday, it was all done. I sent out one email to all our shared friends and family. It simply said, I'm divorcing Laura due to her ongoing infidelity. No drama. Just cold, hard facts. By Sunday evening, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. The first call came from her parents, Robert and Carol Benson. I'd always gotten along well with them. Robert, a former soldier, appreciated my directness. Carol liked how I treated their daughter and respected my structured, businesslike manner. The conversation wasn't easy, but it had to happen. Jeff, we're just shocked, Carol began after an awkward pause. Laura called us, but we wanted to hear your side too. I could tell Carol was struggling to make sense of it all. Laura met someone else, I said simply. She chose to be with him. I'm choosing to respect that decision, though her method leaves a lot to be desired. A year and a half. Robert's voice sounded heavy, disappointed. We didn't raise her like that. This has nothing to do with you, he added. I nodded, though they couldn't see me. People change, I said. They make decisions, and they live with the consequences. There was a short silence before Carol carefully asked, And how are you doing, Jeff? I'm doing all right. Focusing on work. Life goes on, I replied. Saying goodbye, I felt a strange sense of relief. Some relationships survive even when the main one ends. The first court hearing was a month later. Instead of showing up with Laura, she had hired Rebecca Stein, an aggressive divorce lawyer known for winning high settlements from wealthy men. A smart move, but not if you're up against someone prepared. Rebecca launched into a passionate speech about how Laura had sacrificed her career to support mine, and how she was a key part of my company's success. My lawyer calmly placed a folder in front of the judge. Your Honor, he began, Miss Baker was never employed at my client's company. She has always had her own career in marketing, completely separate. In fact, Mr. Baker paid for her MBA at Boston University, which helped her land her current role as marketing director. Here are the tuition checks and tax returns for those years. Judge Hoffman, a sharp, no-nonsense woman with a reputation for fairness, went through the documents slowly and carefully. Then David laid down another folder. Mr. Baker inherited the company from his father 3 years before he even met Miss Baker. At that point, the company was already valued at $8 million. Here are the documents showing the transfer of ownership and the valuation. Rebecca's expression shifted slightly. She hadn't expected this level of preparation. Then came the matter of the house. David produced another folder. Mr. Baker purchased this property 2 years before the marriage. It was never added to joint ownership. Miss Baker signed a prenuptial agreement confirming this, in the presence of her own legal counsel, and without any coercion. I'll never forget Laura's face at that moment. A mix of shock and betrayal. She had signed the prenup, but clearly, she'd never read it closely. She assumed it was just a formality, something no one would ever enforce. Finally, David opened the thickest folder. And Your Honor, here is the evidence of Miss Baker's ongoing affair, which has lasted about 1.5 years. We have detailed proof. Photos, phone recordings, every meeting, every hotel visit, documented. Laura lowered her head. Michael, sitting in the back row of the courtroom, stood up and quietly left. Was it guilt? Shame? I'll probably never know. By the end of the session, it was clear. We had full control of the situation. Judge Hoffman scheduled the next hearing in 2 weeks. She strongly advised both sides to consider settling on mutual terms, given the overwhelming evidence. The next day, David said, She wants to meet. No lawyers. Why? I asked. I had just wrapped up a contract with a new supplier and wasn't in the mood for drama. My guess, David said. Rebecca probably explained the full reality to her. Under Massachusetts law, if adultery is proven, the cheating spouse can be denied alimony entirely. With the prenup and all the evidence, Laura could walk away with nothing. I leaned back in my chair, thinking, revenge might be sweet. I didn't want to take it that far. So I told David, let her know I agree. I'll meet her at Cafe Bluebird tomorrow, around lunchtime. On Neuer Street. Laura looked different. Thinner. Tired. Dark circles under her eyes. She had picked a table in the back, near the window. As I walked over, she was nervously folding a napkin in her hands. Thank you for coming, she said softly. Of course, I replied, sitting down. Peppermint tea, right? I waved to the waiter, and she nodded, slightly surprised I still remembered. Years together don't just disappear in a few weeks, no matter how much someone wishes they would. After the waiter took our order, Laura finally looked up. Jeff, I know you're angry. I'm not, I interrupted. Anger takes emotion. I don't have that anymore. And that's what's scary. She shook her head. It's like you shut off all your feelings from me. It didn't happen all at once. It started the day I found out about you and Michael. Why didn't you say anything back then? She asked. Why didn't you give me a chance? A chance for what? I met her gaze. To calm you down? Apologize? Cry? Promise it would never happen again. Only to do it again 6 months later with someone else. The waiter brought her tea and my Americano. We both stayed silent until he walked away. I'm not here to justify myself, Laura finally said. I want to propose a peaceful agreement, no more court. I'll waive any claims to the house and the business. I won't ask for alimony. All I need is my car, my personal things, and a small amount to start over. I took a sip of coffee and looked straight at her. And Michael? He knows about this deal you're proposing. Her eyes flicked to the side. She didn't even need to answer. Michael and I decided to take a break, she mumbled. Right now, it's just too complicated for him. So the knight in shining armor vanished at the first sign of real life. Suddenly, the idea of being with a woman going through a divorce, who wouldn't get a single cent, didn't seem quite as romantic as the affair with a successful man's wife. What amount are you thinking? I asked. 300,000, she said, watching me closely. I nodded. All right. She blinked. Really? Just like that? Laura, I never wanted to ruin you. I just wanted justice. You'll get your $300,000 if you drop all other claims. Why? She asked, clearly confused. My lawyer told me you could have completely destroyed me in court. He said your evidence was airtight. I looked at my coffee cup. Because 15 years means something, no matter how it ended. And because I want to close this chapter without bitterness, without hate. She signed the papers. The divorce was finalized a week later. A month after that, I transferred the agreed amount to Laura. It was the last time we ever spoke or saw each other. Life started moving again. I threw myself into work and finally launched a long-planned project, expanding the company to the West Coast. I joined a gym, started working out in the mornings, jogging, everything I'd been putting off for years. That's where I ran into Alexa again. She was the younger sister of a friend from college, a Pilates instructor who had just moved back to Boston from San Francisco. We had seen each other at events before, but nothing had ever come of it. This time, we bumped into each other at the gym cafe, literally. I spilled my protein shake all over her bag. A clumsy start that turned into a 30-minute conversation. Lunch the next day, then regular meetups. Alexa was the opposite of Laura. Open, direct, no games, no hidden agendas. She had heard about the divorce. News like that spreads fast in shared social circles. But she never asked for details. Not until I chose to share them. You know what's strange? She said one evening, while we sat on the terrace of her small apartment, watching the sunset. You talk about it without bitterness. Most men I know couldn't forgive something like that for years. I didn't forgive, I said honestly. I let go. That's not the same thing. She nodded quietly, and I could feel that she understood the difference. Sometimes, fate writes its own plot twists. 8 months after the divorce, I was at a business conference in Chicago. As I stepped out of the hotel elevator, I saw him. Michael Donovan. He went pale the moment he recognized me. He froze for a second, like he didn't know whether to run or say hello. Hello, Michael. I held out my hand to him. No need to complicate things. No drama. Jeffrey, he said, nervously shaking my hand. I didn't expect to see you here. Construction conference, I replied. You? Financial forum, he muttered, shifting awkwardly from one foot to the other. Listen about what happened. I raised a hand to stop him. It's fine. It's in the past. No, I have to say this, he insisted, suddenly gathering some courage. You need to know, Laura lied to both of us. I waited silently. She told me you two had already separated, that you knew about us, that you even approved of the divorce, just didn't want to go public for the sake of your company's reputation. I let out a short laugh, more creative than I gave her credit for. He nodded slowly. That wasn't the first time either. Before me, there was your boss, and someone from one of your clients. Are you still with her? I asked, though I already knew the answer. No. We broke up shortly after the court hearings. She's not who I thought she was. We stood there awkwardly for a moment. Two men quietly bound by shared disappointment. By the same woman. By the same pain. How is she? I finally asked, surprising myself. I don't really know, he replied. Last I heard, She moved to Seattle. Took a job with a tech company, or something like that. The elevator chimed. I have to go, he said. Good luck, Jeffrey. You too, I replied. And I meant it. It's been a year since the divorce. I rarely thought of Laura anymore, except when I stumbled on old photos or found something she'd left behind. Alexa moved in 3 months ago. Since then, the house has been filled with life and laughter. We were just planning our first vacation together, a 2-week trip to Hawaii, when the letter arrived. It looked like typical junk mail, an envelope with the Massachusetts State Lottery logo. I almost threw it away unopened. Inside was a notice. I'd won $5 million. Before taxes. A lottery ticket I had bought the day before Laura told me she wanted a divorce. In the chaos that followed, I had completely forgotten about it. I laughed so loud that Alexa came rushing in from the other room. What's going on? She asked, alarmed. I handed her the letter. Fate has a strange sense of humor, I said. Oh my God, she whispered after reading it. Is this real? Looks like I need to call and confirm, I said, still smiling. Alexa's face suddenly turned thoughtful. What if you were still married to Laura? Then she'd get half, I replied, finishing her thought. We stared at each other and burst out laughing. You know, Alexa said, as we calmed down, sometimes the universe does balance things out. Epilogue. 2 years later, Alexa and I got married. A small ceremony on the coast of Maine. Just close friends and family. My company continued to grow. Her Pilates studio became one of the most popular in Boston. As for the lottery money, we invested it into a charity helping children in difficult circumstances. We already had enough. Now and then, I'd hear little updates about Laura through mutual friends. Seattle didn't last long. Then Portland. Then Denver. She kept changing cities, changing jobs, searching for something she couldn't define. The last indirect connection came when her father, Robert, had a heart attack. I sent flowers to the hospital and a short note wishing him well. Carol called to say thank you. She mentioned, almost in passing, that Laura was single again and still hadn't found her place in life. Strangely, I didn't feel satisfaction or bitterness, just a quiet flicker of sadness for someone who, once upon a time, had meant something. Some evenings, I sit out on the porch of our new home, looking out over the ocean. Our daughter, little Emily, is asleep in the next room. I think about everything that happened, the chain of events that led me here, through betrayal that could have broken me, but instead opened the door to a better life. What are you thinking about? Alexa asks, joining me with 2 glasses of wine. She sits down next to me, placing one in my hand. How strange it all is, I say. How everything somehow came together. In real life. I continue. The end sometimes feels more like the beginning. She laughs softly and leans her head on my shoulder. Philosopher, she teases. Grateful man, I say, looking out at the Atlantic. And it's true. I'm even grateful for the pain, for the betrayal. Without it, I wouldn't know what I'm capable of. I wouldn't have found true love, a real family, real happiness. The best revenge is a life well lived. And mine was perfect.